Our next guest is an Emmy-nominated writer and comedian whose work you know from Saturday Night Live and her comedy special, Sam Jay, 3 in the morning. Her new late-night series, Pause with Sam Jay, premieres May 21st on HBO and HBO Max. Let's take a look.
If you really want to help me, just make the laws better. Here's that. They've established a rule of white society.
They want Aunt Jemima off
No,
the stir.
I didn't even know the narrative. I thought Uncle Ben was a rice tycoon. I was proud to buy that rice.
Please welcome back to the show our friend Sam Jay.
What's up? It's good to see you.
Good to see you. Welcome, welcome.
This is cool.
We've got a couch for you and everything.
Yeah.
It is nice to have you back in the building. You worked here for SNL for 3 years, and I imagine, which I want to talk about, your talk show has its own set of stresses. When you come back, though, in the SNL building, on the SNL floor, do you miss it? Do you feel those old stress tickles?
A little bit. I was walking around the hallway like, oh, this is nice. But then I remember this Tuesday night, and I was like, I'm so glad I don't have to deal with this.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I'm here in this capacity.
Because you're putting together your own show, and I imagine one of the first things, one of the coolest things, is staffing it. Did you know right away the kind of people you wanted working on your show? Were they people that you'd known through your life as a stand-up?
Yeah, a lot of stand-ups on the show. I knew for sure I wanted people that I would argue with.
Yeah.
And who are good at screaming loudly when they're drunk.
Yeah.
I was like, I need those two things.
And you had people like that in your life?
Yes.
Yeah.
I had them immediately ready. If you're a stand-up, I think you got those people on speed dial.
And there does seem to be the element of the show is there's a, exactly what you just said. There's this sort of party atmosphere and this debate atmosphere. Have you been someone who has enjoyed being argumentative with friends over your life?
Yeah. I think my whole life, I've always liked to argue. My family thought I was going to be a lawyer because they were like, oh, because you love to argue, which there's way more to being a lawyer than that. But ever since I was a kid, I was big into arguing, debating, and, kind of poking the bear a little bit.
So you have this talk show, you get this offer to put it together, and you sort of decide on, from that clip, you put it in this party. It's got this really nice verite feel to it. How did you come and land on that as your format?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I just felt like, like you got the desk locked down. You know what I mean?
Man. Like fully, it's got
got at the desk. So I was like, hey, let me try something else that I haven't seen. And also, I just felt like I'm better in that type of a space.
When you're doing it, and obviously, you're out there and you're performing, and you're not necessarily looking directly in the camera the way, I think conventionally a lot of us do it. But obviously later you're going to be in the edit. Are you able to sort of be loose and free, or as the creator of the show, as the showrunner, are you also thinking in your head while you're doing it, okay, this is working here, this isn't working there?
I think I'm thinking a little bit, but also being like loose and free. It's a little bit of a dance of like, enjoy the moment, but also sometimes I'm like directing a camera. I'm like, go over there, you know what I mean? It's better over there. I'm not really saying anything. So it's a little bit of doing both jobs.
And is it also about making all the other people in the room with you feel comfortable as well? Because you must want them to have the freedom to be as loose as they would be if the cameras weren't there.
Yeah, 100%. That was like super important to me. Like, I was like, please don't be like staging my friends. Don't move them. Don't place them. I didn't want any boom mics, which drove everybody insane because there's about like 13 individual mics going on at once, so the audio sounds nuts to them. But I just wanted people to be as comfortable as possible so they could like truly be themselves.
And I'm imagining the longer you were doing it, the more that became the case.
Yeah, the more you do it, the more I'm chilling.
Yeah.
And I think if my vibe is chill, then their vibe is chill.
I'm assuming like a lot of stand-ups, you've missed it this past year. Are you getting back up on stages again? And how has the experience been?
I am. I'm back up at the Cellar. I'm back up at the Stand, and it's been great. Like, I miss stand-up so much. And especially doing this show, it's like super stressful, and weirdly, standing up in front of strangers and telling my personal business is a stress reliever for me. So it's helped balance out that energy.
Has it always been a stress reliever for you? Because I think for a lot of people, the idea, especially as an up-and-coming stand-up, in the rooms you mentioned, which are pretty famous rooms with a lot of big names, when did you cross that threshold of stop being stressed before you went on stage?
I don't really know when it stopped. One day I just wasn't anymore.
Yeah.
I think once I realized, like, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna be doing it for a while, I think once that lands on you, you're like, all right, there's gonna be good days and there's gonna be bad days.
Do you feel like audiences are better for having been away from live performance, or are they rusty as well?
I think audiences are laughing at anything. I think it's easier to make them laugh. They're just so happy to be outside. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're like, you can say whatever and they're like dying, laughing, and like rolled over, which is nice, but also sometimes you're like, I don't know if that was that funny.
Right. Well, it's really hard because I think there's, look, you don't want a dead audience, but you want a true audience, especially if you're trying to build material. And it's really hard sometimes, to have to admit that to yourself of, I think literally anything would have worked tonight.
Yeah, but I think that's getting, like, New Yorkers are like easily jaded, so
Yeah.
people have been outside for like a month. I think they're over it.
Yeah.
So I think you'll get a real New York audience back.
Yeah, exactly. You started in Boston doing stand-up, which has a great stand-up history, of course. And you talk about this in your special. I think less known for having maybe as diverse stand-up, scene as maybe other places. As someone who's queer, as someone who's black, as a female, like what was that scene like for you coming up?
Very white and very male, like most comedy scenes. But I mean, I think it had its times where it was rough, but I feel like it's kind of like can be rough to anybody.
Yeah.
It didn't feel particular to me in any way, but definitely it can be a little bit isolating when you go on a show and like you're the only black person, you're the only woman, you're the only gay person. And then it's just like a bunch of like white dudes who know all the Red Sox players. You know what I mean? And you're like, I guess this is what we're doing.
Do you feel like, after you're a part of the scene for a while, though, and you get up and you score in enough rooms, you become part of the team?
Yeah, for sure. I think comedy is like a equalizer in that way, where people just need to see you do it enough and be like, oh, she's good at it. And then they kind of like just bring you into the fold.
Did you manage to, because again, part of your show is very much that talking with comedians, and I think it's one of those elements of stand-up that people romanticize all the time is how, comics, when they get together, they spend a lot of time after the show hanging out and talking. Did you miss that deeply over this time that we were all apart?
Very much. I think that was part of what drove me to make the show the way I did, was just I missed hanging out with my friends and I missed arguing with my friends. And I was like, I need this energy to happen. It's somewhere. So I think that was a little bit of like, I was like, maybe I can get HBO to pay me to hang out with my friends.
That's very smart. You tend to, when you have arguments with your friends, are you ever convinced to their point of view, or do you feel like...
Sometimes.
Yeah, okay, good.
Sometimes, not often. I'm pretty stubborn.
Right.
I think most of the time it's agree to disagree. But sometimes I get brought over to the other side.
Hey, you posted this photo, which I have to ask you about. This is you and Emmanuel Lewis.
Yeah.
And he was, at the time, he was a DJ at the time?
He was DJ, so he was a judge. He was a guest judge at the Boston Comedy Festival.
Okay.
And then he would like DJ the after parties, which I think was like a part of his deal. I think he was like, I won't judge unless you let me DJ. And he was a pretty dope DJ. All he played was like booty shaking, like Southern, like Atlanta music, and like Little John and stuff, which was really awesome. It was a great time. I was very shocked by all of it. I was shocked he was there. I was shocked he was a DJ. I was shocked we looked that much alike. It was all very odd.
That must be jarring, especially when you have photographic evidence of it forever.
Yeah, for real. Especially, like, he's like one of my heroes as a kid. Like, who didn't love Webster?
Yeah. And how was he as a comedy judge?
Kind.
Okay.
I don't think he really was like,
That's a good thing to hear, because you
Yeah.
don't want to hear hard truths from Emmanuel Lewis.
Nah,
you know?
he was nice to everybody. He thought
Yeah.
everyone was funny. You know what I mean?
Did you do a lot of gigs where there would be sort of celebrity comedy judges? Because that doesn't seem super fun.
No,
Yeah.
I haven't.
Okay.
I've done two. One was that, and I did a festival in LA, and Sal from Coming to America, he judged.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Would you ever agree to be a judge for someone else's comedy?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't
I
think
feel
I'd
like, how
want
do
to.
you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, I just wouldn't take any joy in telling people.
No, and I would be thinking, like, if I was up there, I would probably want this person to shut up.
Yeah. Well, I think that's very nice that both of us know that about ourselves, that we wouldn't want them there. Hey, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it, and congrats on the show. It's really a delight to have you back in the building.
Thank you so much. You got really beautiful eyes.
Oh, you know what? They're here every night,
It was good. I
and nobody says a word. That's a real theme tonight, Shoemaker. Pause with Sam J. Premieres Friday on HBO and HBO Max.